Welcome to the Underrepresented in Tech podcast, where we talk about issues in underrepresentation and have difficult conversations. Underrepresented in Tech is a free database with the goal of helping people find new opportunities in WordPress and tech. Hello, Samah.
Hello, Michelle. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. It's really hot in the Netherlands. Like I feel I'm being baked or kind of introduction course to hell or whatever. But because in the houses there's no AC, there's nothing. You and your blood. So, but other than that, everything is fine.
I keep forgetting that it's summer because I work from home. I live at home. I don't go out much. And then I'll go to get in the car and I'll be like, good golly, it's hot out here. But luckily I have central air in my home, so I'm happy. But as we teased out last week in last week's episode, we always say, it's possible that our guest would suddenly not be available, but she is available. And so our guest today is Kiera Howe. Kiera, welcome to Underrepresented in Tech.
Hiya.
It's good to have you here. And Kiera, I met you, I know it was WordCamp Ottawa. I believe it was WordCamp Ottawa. And I want to say it was like several years before the pandemic, maybe 2016, 2017. It's been quite a while that we've been friends. And I am just happy to be part of your friendship crew. And so when I asked you if you would be able and willing to come talk about your story, you said yes. And I was just like, please just punch, as they say. I don't know, I've been using a lot of my grandmother's phrases lately, like, please just punch. Completely unrelated. The other one that she used to say specifically about John Wayne was he could park his boots under my bed anytime, which I was like, grandma. But anyway, that's another story for another day. But Kiera, you are, I will say, the first person that I've known as a friend who has transitioned. And so for you to come today and kind of be the person that can talk about this openly in WordPress and in tech, I'm just, I'm really grateful that you're willing to come and be with us today. So thank you.
Well, I do this. I sort of many years ago, as I was transitioning, I was sort of like, I really need to stay in the community because I know, and it goes with your. I'm the first one. I'm probably not the first one. You just
no,
didn't
right? That I knew of is what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny because I see a lot of folks who transition and then they just sort of blend in with the everybody and they disappear.
Yeah.
So I tend to like kind of just being here, like being in places and people know, and it is what it is. I hate that
kind of
so much.
It's kind of I know that phrase. It is what it's but what I love about you and what I see when we're in friend groups together is it's a non-issue, right? So that's not to say that you haven't experienced prejudice and experienced other negative things in the greater community. I'm not speaking for you. I'm just making generalizations about the community and as a whole. And I don't mean our community. I mean the global community. But I want to hear it from you. I don't want to put words in your mouth. So tell us, like, when did you do this? And you did it publicly, correct? You were teaching? I'm trying to remember.
I was
you
teaching,
tell the story.
Yeah.
I was totally teaching. It's funny because it's with technology, I always liked it, like especially in software development. It's like as software developers, we're all a bunch of nerds and sort of like we're a little different from the rest of the, so you tend to get a lot of people who are just like whatever, like whatever, you want to you want to play D&D, you want to do whatever you're transitioning. Oh, okay, whatever, sure. And it has been by and large for me. It's like the communities I run in has been very much like that. It's been so and it was I was teaching at a college in Canada, in Ontario here, and was and it was it was a year and a half coming. So I was teaching for quite a while. I was presenting as a guy for a period of time, and and we got to a point where I was ready. Well, I was ready quite a bit before that, but it was like, it was, and I said it to my boss, or my coordinator at the time. I was like, I'm transitioning. I'm coming back as Kiera in the new year. And yeah, it was over a New Year. So I get the nice like New Year changeover. I can count from a set number too.
You did the New Year's resolution that very few of us have the ability to
Yeah.
do.
I did a New Year's resolution and I stuck with it.
That's right.
But they were like, because it was, I mean, in Canada, there's a bunch of laws around trans and well, around a whole lot of things been around for quite a while. And that and then the schools in themselves tend to be much more accepting to folks who are different. And they're the learning environment. It tends I, but so they basically, they took the message that I sent, and they were like, okay, well, let's do this thing. We're going to change the name in our system. We're going to do this and that. And the only thing we had was there was a bit of a thing where they couldn't change my name in like a payroll system until I changed it officially, like I actually put in which took me like 6 months, which was nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a lot of it was fairly like, I mean, it's from a professional life and from a community. It wasn't that big a deal. I can tell you there's aspects, like there's weird stories and things that it's like so especially around teaching around I tell the story periodically because it's the most overt thing was this because I say it's weird because it's like people have always said women get treated differently in tech, right? And in anything, but tech especially, it's like we're not expected to know things, or like technology and the so forth, and and I see that a lot, but it's like it's always those like, was that like is that somebody's stereotype, or was that just they just don't know, like they're just you know that it's they're just for lack of a better term, stupid. um, so I have when I was at teaching, we had a spot where our technology went offline, and we sent this email to the IT guy, and we're like, me and another instructor were teaching together, but I sent this email to him, and it was after my transition, and we had interactions prior to transition, prior to me changing my name on my email and all that. And so I sent this email to this guy, and basically saying, hey, we're having a problem with the software that you manage. And he came back and was like, oh yeah, it's not a big deal, just get your students to use FTP. If you'd like, I'll come down and show them how. And I mean, now it doesn't, like, it sound, when I say it out loud, it doesn't sound as sort of but it's like I know how to teach my students FTP. That is not the point. They are also marketing students. They don't know, like they can barely operate a WordPress, let alone FTP. But it was just this, and I went back through the emails because I had the records of all my previous emails, and the tone, his responses to everything were way different than like when my name changed, his responses to me changed, and it was really kind of fascinating in a kind of terribly, terribly dark way. But yeah, so that's the top story of the top of like, what the heck. But by and large, people are generally pretty, like, they're just like shoulder shrug, like, okay,
Yeah.
sure.
How long ago was this that you transitioned? I don't know what year it was.
So that would have been well, 2016, January 1st, 2016 is when I went like full full Kiera.
Left as one person, came back as yourself.
Pretty much. I mean, I was transitioning in 2015 towards the course of that, and it was just like I was getting all the things lined up to and trying to pick a name, which is really hard. It's hard. Like all the people who've had kids and like are trying to pick the name for their kids. It's like, how do you even choose a name?
Why
I wondered
did you
about
choose
that.
Kiera? Yeah.
Yeah. Kiera just it came down to just I liked it. It sounded good. My previous name was sort of it wasn't one of like the really popular names. It was sort of it was from a statistical point of view. I think Kiera lands in the same sort of statistics. It's got a different. I was trying to find one with the same first letter, but I couldn't find anything I liked. I think I started liking the ones with the A at the end, like the Kiera, like the
Yeah.
I had a few options that had that in the end, and I was like, it's probably why like I guess
It
it's just.
it flows well with your last name too. It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's that. There are a few that I'd like, you look at it, and it's like, you don't want that name like that you, whereas
Yeah.
those weirds are like Steven Stevenson, like those it's like, who names their kid that?
My ex-husband,
Sorry out there to all the Steven
yeah,
Stevenson that I didn't mean to knock your name, but it is.
I once said to my ex-husband about somebody that we knew that had one of those names that was like Steven Stevenson. And I said, it would be like if your parents named your sister Amy because our last name was Ames. He's like, I do have a sister Amy. And he did. And I was like, never mind. For sure. No, I never thought about the fact that you probably most of us have middle names. Did you have to pick two names? Did you pick a
Yeah.
middle name as well?
Well, so my middle names are my parents' name was so my family has this like JP in a lot of the names throughout like it's sort of a kind of a generational thing. So I have Janice Patricia in my middle name. So I have
Oh,
this
nice.
JP that and Janice is my mom's name. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, and so
How was your family throughout this part of your journey?
so they thought there was a change. Like my mom's been has been very supportive along the way. I mean, she's had, I can tell she's had a bit of her, like she's has a hard time kind of remembering the pronouns and the change, name changes and stuff. But she did that pretty, like she fixed that really quickly, really. Um, like my extended family has the cousins and things, they were just all like, whatever, sure.
Oh, that's nice.
Um, my so my dad's been a little bit of a harder sell or harder thing on this one. So it is, yeah, that's sort of an ongoing thing, but
Do you find that by and large women are more accepting of this kind of thing than men? Or okay, I wondered.
generally, yeah. I actually find myself a lot more comfortable when I tell people if like a female identifying person would it tends to be more like just like more whatever.
Welcome.
Right, yeah.
And
Interesting.
everybody's always so curious about it too. Like it's and I don't mind telling people like to talking about it and stuff, and
Yeah.
people are you know I find I find that the guys that I've told have a very like they tend to ask those
The
questions
obvious
that you
question.
don't, yeah, the ones that you don't really want to answer, and then the women will be a much more into it, looking like the social questions, the things that are much more subtle maybe, or you know interesting potentially.
Yeah, that's understandable. I like that actually. So,
Yeah.
excuse me, how did your students? Were your students
uh
like kind of rolled with it too?
Students, Students had no issue. I was co-teaching with one of with another instructor, and a couple of people who had issues with changing pronouns. Like I had I we had students who were coming who were from all over the world, right? And I know we had one direct student who was a bit of a bit weird about it, but they were never directly weird to me about it. So it was like, so I don't know how, that's the other, of course, the other thing is that you don't really know if people are, if people don't use pronouns when you're talking to them one-on-one, right? So it's
Right.
like, it's unless they're telling a story or something, but so you don't often can't tell if they're actually being, if they're obnoxious until, you're standing with a third person and they, but, by and large, the students were just like, again, they were just like, whatever, sure.
I've seen posts that say things like if you misgender people, mispronoun people, that it's an act of violence. I've heard people say things like really extremist. And I'm wondering what your take on that is. Now, obviously, people make mistakes, right? So, like, I know people in my life who've gone from gendered pronouns to non-binary pronouns. And I try so hard, but because I've known them for so long as one way, I'll say the wrong pronoun and correct myself, right? So, obviously, I'm trying kind of thing. And I make mistakes, I'm human. But there are people who intentionally misgender and mispronoun people. What are
Yeah,
your
so
thoughts on that?
my thoughts are that if you're actively being being a jerk, I wanted to use a slightly
You can say
sharper
asshole.
word.
We can say asshole on this turn.
Yes.
If you're actively like I do not accept this person and I'm going to basically do the thing that they have asked me not to do, that's just an asshole move.
Yeah, it
And
is.
Yeah.
that is the like a violence is a strong word, but it is like I'm not sure there's a better
It's
spot in
combative at least,
language than
right?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it is like it's like look like I have I said I have people who like my dad still screws up my pronouns and it drives me crazy because it's like and there's moments like we were down in Florida at one point and he were standing there at a restaurant and he misgendered me and this is Florida. Like I could get beaten up for like
Yeah,
for him mispronouncing, like putting the wrong pronoun,
yeah.
using the wrong pronouns. Like it is not, it is like you've got to understand, like that's not only just a like a it's not just,
It's a safety
you
issue.
it is a safety
Yeah.
issue for me. And it is and so it's it's sort of tough and I do like there is like times when it is violent like to
Mhm.
for somebody to be like to say that and then there's other times where it's just a goof like it's just a oh damn it I should have
Oh,
said something.
I missed it
And
again. Yeah.
I will admit that the they pronouns are tough for me too. Like I have friends who have they are they them and they like I mean I've had
We saw that too.
sorry. I just hit the table and I was like,
The camera went wonky. Yeah.
um, yeah, and it was a change to try and like to mentally be like no 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 this is the pronoun I should be using. So it's like mistakes are mistakes. I mean it's really more intention than anything
Sure.
else and
Mhm.
so and to some extent intention includes being like not actually trying, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's like you can make a mistake, but if it's like 7 years later and you're still making the same mistake, you clearly haven't put a lot of effort into unmaking the mistake,
Yeah.
right?
That makes
Yeah.
sense for sure.
So
So, I'm talking all over Samam. I promise I'm gonna let you ask
No,
questions too,
no,
Samam.
no, but you're asking all of the question I want to ask. But I
Okay.
love you, so just go ahead.
So last fall in October, my daughter took me to a visiting speaker series at UB. And she didn't tell me until we got there who I was going to be hearing. And it turned out it was Amy Schneider, who is one of the winningest people on Jeopardy and is also a trans woman. And
Mhm.
she's very open about her experience, also like a ton of experience, not just transitioning, but also going through having been an addict and all of these. I mean, her book is amazing. Her story was amazing. And she made the statement that like I really took to heart was she said, I hope that everybody has the opportunity at some point in their life to come out as something because the growth through that was amazing to her. And so Allie and I last year, I said, I called her like it was 9:30 at night. I'm calling her on the phone on the way back from Buffalo. I go, I have this idea that it's absolutely lesser than people who transition or people who come out in the LGBTQ community. But for some of us, it's not even safe to come out as an ally. And for me, that whole process of coming out as an ally felt dangerous to some within some of my own family and friends group. And so like just that little kernel of understanding of what that was like for me, like exacerbate that for somebody who is the person who is in the LGBTQ community, etc. But what do you think of that phrase, that what she had to say about she hopes everybody has that opportunity?
Absolutely. I think we should all be aware of our own the things society sort of says that we're supposed to be, and then come out as like, no, that's not me. I know this is not me. Forget you all. And it's
Mhm.
it's and it is absolutely, it's been absolutely um amazing, the for me, going like, as I did all so much research, um of like, and it I was it was like the psychology of people, and like I was learning, like it wasn't even just like my own self. It was like, okay, I'm identifying pieces of myself that are I can see in other people, and I can, like, it's actually became the world got shiny and sparkly for a bit, like where it was like it was really interesting to watch the what other people, like how they presented themselves, and how there's so many different, like I'm watching, looking outward at the world, but um it's just like you learn so much about yourself in this process, and if you can't sort of accept yourself, to that you're not what everybody says you are, like if you can accept any part of yourself that is like, I like to be a giant nerd. If you like to play D&D, but all your friends think that's stupid, like, come out as a D&D player, like. It's just one of the, like, and everybody should just spend their life learning, growing, and transitioning into something else, like it's
Mhm.
and accept that you don't know everything, and everybody, and the world tells you a lot of stuff that is just, this is the way it is. You're not to deviate from that and and you got to sort of, like, yeah, if you can, yes. I think short
Yes, the
answer
bottom
is
line is yes. We had an opportunity also to ask her questions like via Twitter with a hashtag, which was a very interesting thing. And my question actually got asked during the moderation, and my question was, and I think I assume the answer, but I think it's important for other people to hear the answer, and I could be wrong, of course. But my question to her, and I'm going to ask you as well, is how important was the role of allies through that process, through the transitioning process?
um it's it you it is absolutely fundamental to have some friends who are just like, accept, like, are just allies. They're just straight up, like, well, I had friends who took me shopping, because that has always been a thing, where it's been it to go into, like, I mean, shopping in general has never been really my thing, but there was, I think it's, from a subconscious level, I was like, to go into the women's section, presenting as a guy previously, was like it was terrifying to me because of the judgment that I thought like people are going to be like whispering and so forth. And to have somebody at my side to we could go in and go buy dresses. And we went to when I just as a New Year's, there was a New Year's event, and we went and bought dresses for this New Year's event at a store, obviously a store. Um, and yeah, it was just like I don't know that I could have done that without my friend there, and to be like to just as a like somebody's there with me, and that I'm not having to fight this feeling in my internal um fears
Sure.
on my own, right? And there's always power in numbers. So, you get together with, the friends, but there's a whole lot of statistics around that say, supportive, anything supportive is good for people's mental health. And and it's good for, so I mean, absolutely, it's huge to have that from an ally's point of view, being able to like in school to be able to like what the when I was teaching, to have my coordinator who was just like, I sent him an email and he just went like took care of it. Like he just took care of all the stuff that needed to get taken care of to make that happen. So it was like, yeah, if you don't have people who are just like, I don't um I don't know how that would work for me. Like I don't know where I'd be without, all of the people who have sort of been along the way. And one of the really fascinating things I read a while back, and this is probably been a whole bunch of surveys about detransition. It's very political, where people are like, they use it as an excuse not to give us access to whatever. But it's the detransitioners, they talk about it. The actual statistics come about, I think 3% was the most recent studies that I heard, somewhere between 1 and 3%. This is better than a lot of cancer treatments.
That's
But
a
it's
very small number.
yeah. So if you talk about like 97% of people, don't detransition. And But the interesting thing is that there was some statistics on those 3% of people, and that's like a lot of them detransitioned not because they regretted it. They just got so much hate from their community, from the people around them, that it was untenable to keep going that way. Like there's a percentage of the 3% who is just, they're still trans. They've just been beaten down, unfortunately, too, and they just didn't have the people around them that would potentially stand up for them, right? So
Yeah. So Mariah, I'll keep asking questions, but if you have some, I want you to jump in. I don't want to talk over
Me,
you.
yeah, I'm gonna jump in. I have like a very question related to the work. I know you have been read, of course, about you, that you really contribute I'm losing my
Significantly.
words. Yeah, to the WordPress community by speaking and organizing at WordCamps, as well as developing custom solutions and plugins. How was your involvement in those diverse group or diverse community help or influence your career and personal growth? And was it easy as a transgender woman for you to do it? Because I know, how can I say it? It is really difficult. Sometimes you entering the community itself. From my own experience, WordPress community I entered, and it was so difficult since I'm coming from different culture, and I came here living in Europe, trying to be part of the community, finding someone, because I don't know, we're human. We always find someone who looks like us in some place, and then we feel more welcome, like we sense of belonging. How that involvement in WordPress community or in the tech community helped you with your personal growth, and was it transgender at the same time you're trying to be in the community? I know it was very difficult. So yeah, how is that it really helped you in your personal growth?
Um, well, so I've always been a giant geek, so giant nerd.
I can attest to that.
Even as much as I tried to hide it when I was younger, it was there. So I've been in computers forever. I don't know that I'd ever do anything different. And that was when I was in my 20s. One of the things that I did a whole bunch of research on trans, and this was 20 years ago. So if you think about early 2000s, um, I did all this research about this, and it was like there was as far as like tech in the tech community, it was like you would never get permission from a doctor because you were a computer person, and computers were male. Like that was the guy. It was a
Okay.
guy's thing. And it was like I think I may have chosen to take as long as I did to transition, because it was like I'm not gonna stop doing the thing that I love to because like I have the choice of like that because I'm gonna get kicked out of it, like that was, and it's so there's really like it's tough. So I mean, as far as being in the community, it is um I mean, the personal growth is I'm not sure how to define that in my own head, as far as what I like, because it is basically like the just having that community is growth. It you know it is gives me something to do.
Yeah, awesome.
I mean,
What are you expecting? I know that WordPress community is becoming more diverse, more inclusive. Like we talked, Michelle and I, a couple of episodes, even like about changing dates to more hopefully for the future to be more accepting for all of the attendees. To even think about the food, that everyone is feeling welcome. That hey, this is my dietary requirement, whatever religiously or for health things. What do you think WordPress community, because that's I know the best, that what they should do or hopefully they could do to make WordPress more diverse for a transgender? Uh, uh, what advices you can give them, or from your experience or difficulties or obstacles that you have in the past, or maybe you still facing it, and you think that WordPress community should improve?
the community in WordPress it has been great. Like, I mean, I haven't had any issues with that. The fact that they're putting out like pronoun stickers and stuff on things is great. It's like having that's it's a it's been I'm not sure, other than just sort of like just keep being accepting and keep doing that. I can't speak for other communities, other folks, but I mean, just keeping in mind the things that were that, and keep being open. And I had this the story, like you pick your organizers, you pick your team leaders in a way that is not obnoxious, because like so we had Toronto pre-pandemic, the Toronto WordCamp. We got this leader, and he did he put a piece of like a story about these two guys making a bad joke at a Python conference. I think it was Python, making a very essentially a sexist joke, and this article that was basically like, well, boys will be boys, and
Oh,
he wanted like this. That was what I thought the article basically came out looking at, was like, oh well, it's not such a big deal. Why are you making it such a big deal? It's like, well, it is a big deal, and it's even a bigger deal when the organizer of a WordCamp is putting this garbage into in where everybody will see it. Like it's like and so it's one of those things that it's just you just keep picking, you pick your people, pick the people who will keep who have that empathy, that idea that everybody deserves a spot. And there are things that if especially around like if you don't see it, it doesn't mean it's not there kind of thing. Like they have to accept that if you're being told that this is problematic, that you don't argue with that, argue with the people who say it's problematic because they know.
Right.
um, so
You
yeah.
wouldn't tell a person in a wheelchair that they don't really need curb cuts and that they
Yeah.
don't really need an elevator. You wouldn't tell somebody who has a nut allergy that they should go ahead and eat those walnut cookies, right? So
Well,
why
it's
are you
like
telling other people how they should
the,
be
in
accommodated?
the in the curb cut thing, it's like it's not even like, oh, you don't need it. It's like, oh, it's going to be too expensive to do that. It's going to be
Right.
too hard. It's too much work to make that happen. It's like,
Yeah.
how about you just figure out how to do it. And it's like, rather than upfront, that no upfront is always those people who do that no upfront, where
Mhm.
you say like, we need this, and this goes for like everything. This is not just within the various communities and things. It's like, if you have somebody come up to you with a problem and say, like, I would really like to change XYZ, whether it's a software problem or whether it's a diversity problem of whatever. I want to change this to be like, oh, it's going to be too hard to do that. Oh no, we can't do that. To put that no right out front is like, that is such a bad move, and I see it all the time with people in all kinds of different scenarios. And it's like, well, don't say no. Figure out how it could be done, and then you can figure out, like, okay, maybe it's going to cost a lot, and maybe we can figure out a way to make it cost less, or maybe we can figure out a way to
Raise
like,
capital. Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, so it's like there's always a way to do everything. It's just, you just have to be open to it. And it comes, like, I think it comes down to that in a lot of cases in stuff like this, is that you pick your leaders who are willing to accept that they don't know everything, that and also that they will go and figure stuff out, right?
Mhm. I think it's good to have leaders that will advocate for their community members. And that's, I think, for me, that's the bottom line, right? So, I use a mobility device. If somebody says to me, oh, I'm sorry, our WordCamp's not going to be accessible for you, like that's just not acceptable, right? So,
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, and that's a very blatant, obvious thing because there's laws that protect people with to have access who don't walk, right? So that's that. Um, and I think some countries are doing better at enacting laws to protect people in the LGBTQ community, specifically trans individuals. But we're not there yet. And so having leaders in places other than government who will advocate for me and you and
Mhm.
others, I think is just super important. So I'm really glad you raised that point.
Yeah, and it is like in Canada. I'm sort of blessed to be in Canada and we have a whole lot of legal protections, and we tend to be but it's just, unfortunately, I look at the States and I see the sort of patchwork
Yeah.
and the things that are and aren't, and you can't, and it's like, yeah, I'm blessed that Canada has. And then, but we have a potential leader coming, potential leader of one of our parties that wants to make a whole bunch of changes to a whole bit, like, he's
Mm.
right wing, shall I say. So
No,
It,
I hope it to make it to the better, not to make it
mhm.
to the
yeah,
worse.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, it's like, and I don't know how, like, people don't see the betterment of, like, some of the stuff, like, if we want to go back to the curb cut thing, is like,
Right.
well, now all the people with strollers have a way to get up on the curb, and
Hmm.
it's not just it. And maybe that wasn't discussed right at the beginning of that, when that was put forward, but it was a benefit to everybody. It's like,
Right.
it's the same accessibility, the arguments we have with web and with everything, is where, if you do it right, everybody benefits. So it's
Right.
like, if you include everybody, if you include trans people in your legal structure, then yeah, we there's a, and then you get other people who are on the edges of that who can be themselves too. Like it's
Hmm.
so
Yeah. One thing I get told a lot, and I just smile and say thank you because I don't ever want to tell somebody that that's the wrong thing to say, so to speak. But people will tell me all the time when they see me like traveling and in my scooter and all that, like, oh, you're so brave or you're so inspirational and that kind of thing. But there's really truly no bravery in just not being able to walk, right? So like like that's not a brave thing.
I get
And I'm
that.
sure
I
people,
get that too. I get
but for
people who are like, "Oh, you're so brave for doing this." It's like, well, I don't know how else I could have done this.
exactly. But at the same time, there is a level of bravery to putting yourself in positions like being in Florida. So, like, you have to live your authentic self, but there are still places that are not necessarily safe for you, just like there are places that I can't. There's a gorge near us that has it's beautiful waterfalls. I did it as a kid. It is all steps. It is all, there's no way that anybody that uses a mobility device could ever go there. It is not safe for me. I cannot drive my scooter down flights of stairs, right? Kind of thing. And so I realized that it's different for you because you can't just look and see that something is not a safe space.
Yeah, yeah. You don't know until you're actually. I have the uh, I have the benefit that I blend. Like
Yes.
I can blend in. Nobody really knows
Yeah.
that I'm
Unless you're
trans.
getting misgendered publicly, those kinds of
Yeah,
things.
well, except for that. So, I do have a lot more
You sure do. Yeah.
flexibility from that respect to go and be where I want to be, right?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Any last questions or thoughts, Sama?
Not at all. Not at all.
Anything we didn't ask you that you wanted to say, Kiera?
no, I think I mean I just I just
Yeah.
talk and
We like that. I like that. That's why we're friends. I'm a talker too. Anyway, I want to thank you so much for spending some time with us today and being willing to tell your story. I know that for some people that's not an easy thing to do. And so I'm glad and grateful that for you, I don't want to say it's easy. I'm not putting words in your mouth, but that you're able and willing to be so open about it. So I really do appreciate you and your friendship. Thank you.
yeah, I appreciate that. That's it's easier to be open when you have a whole bunch of people around who are just like are awesome people.
Yep, absolutely. And shout out to
Yeah.
your friendship circle in the WordPress community up in Canada because
Yeah.
they're pretty awesome people. I like them too.
I should put an asterisk being like I represent one person and there are a grand number of trans
Yeah.
people and they all look different and they are different and they present differently and it's you've seen one but
Exactly. Exactly. Right. And we said that before we started recording is you are telling your story, not every trans person's story.
yeah
And we obviously understand that. And we want people who are listening and watching this to understand that as well. Kira's story is Kira's story. And it might not
exactly.
be, Joe's story or Samantha's story or somebody else's story. But every one story that you hear contributes to a better understanding of our world and the people within it. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank
So
you. And hopefully to see you one day, real life version in WordCamp.
absolutely.
Exactly.
If you should have come to WordCamp Canada, you could have gone home with a fancy little uh,
But next time,
Wapu.
next time, next year.
I have one on my keychain. So, all right. Thank you. I don't know what we're going to, last 2 weeks I've said, hey, this is our topic next week. We haven't talked about that yet. So we don't know what our topic is next week. We're always open to ideas. So if you are listening or
Yeah.
watching and you have ideas that you'd like us to discuss, we would love to hear about those. So thank you again, Kiera. Thank you, Sama, for being my co-host with the most, as they say.
thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. We'll see everybody else on
Yeah.
the next episode of
Yeah.
Underrepresented in Tech. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye. Bye.
If you're interested in using our database, joining us as a guest for an episode, or just want to say hi, go to underrepresentedintech.com. See you next week.